we've been able to do a lot from time to time, but under these circumstances is not so much. What we witnessed this weekend was one of the worst terrorist attacks in the history of not just Israel, but in the modern world. You have barbarians from Hamas, funded by the Iranian regime, murdering elderly, children, raping women, doing things that are really indescribable. It's important that we say, as Americans and as Floridians, we stand with the people of Israel and we stand with the state of Israel in this dark hour. And that means that we are very clear that Israel not only has the right to defend itself, Israel has the duty to defend itself with overwhelming force, to defend itself in a way that Hamas terrorist infrastructure and networks are eradicated from the earth. You're going to start hearing, maybe in days, but certainly weeks, you're going to start hearing people say that Israel is now to blame, that Israel is acting disproportionately. The United Nations may even do something. Americans need to stand firm. There is no moral equivalence between Israel defending itself and Hamas terrorists committing atrocities against civilians. And you can count on us here in Florida to be very clear about right and about wrong. This was, over the weekend, the largest number of Jewish civilians killed in a single day since the Holocaust. My wife and I are praying for the families of those killed and missing, particularly the at least 11 American citizens that have already been reported to be killed, and we fear it could be many more, and we do fear that there are Americans that could potentially be being held hostage right now. We too pray for the family of IDF Captain Abraham Hankin in North Miami Beach, who was killed in battle against Hamas terrorists Saturday night. And we pray for the several dozen Florida residents who have since returned to Israel to fulfill their commitment to Israel's armed forces in defense of what needs to be done. So I was sad to see the response from the administration be, in some way, just absolutely, you just throw your hands up and you wonder what's doing. They have, immediately after the attack, they had to delete a tweet from one of the State Department bureaus that said there should be no response. And then Blinken sent out a tweet calling for a ceasefire in this situation. What? You get massive terrorist attack and you're just supposed to sit there? And we all know the truth. If Hamas and Hezbollah and any Palestinian Arab simply laid down their arms tomorrow, that would result in peace. If Israel laid down its arms tomorrow, that would result in the destruction of the Jewish state. We know that. And so for having the administration do anything other than a unified voice saying that Israel should be able to defend itself and that we support that was honestly not surprising, but it's still very, very disappointing. Now's the time for leadership. Now's the time for the president to be out there, to be talking about how important it is that we're unified in the fight against terrorism. They should be talking about how it's wrong to support policies that enrich the Iranian regime. And this is something that started years ago. It wasn't even just with this $6 billion. The Biden administration made a decision to loosen sanctions on Iran. That caused a lot more oil money to go filling the coffers of the Ayatollah and the regime. When Iran gets more money, they are not using it to make life better for the people of Iran. What they use it for is to fund terrorism throughout the Middle East and indeed throughout the world. They send the money to Hezbollah. They send the money to Hamas. And that's exactly what we've seen. And yes, Iran was involved in orchestrating this attack against Israel. We know that. It's been reported. They deny it, but we're smarter than that. So this issue of Iran really being the clearinghouse for terrorist financing in the region is something that the United States needs to take seriously. We should use all available avenues to choke off money going to the Iranian regime. We should not have We should have no tax dollars going to the Iranian regime in the form of ransom payments, whether they're airlifting cash like they did under Obama. Never, ever should your tax dollars go to that despicable regime. We also should not be sending tax dollars to Gaza. Things like UNRWA goes down there and it's used for terrorism. And we've been saying that for an awful long time. So let's get real here in terms of what's going on. I think if you look at what Israel is dealing with now, it may be as big a challenge as the modern state has faced, and there's been a lot that they faced. The Arabs tried to suffocate the birth of Israel in its crib in the late 1940s. You had an invasion that was getting ready to happen in 1967, preempted by Israel in the Six-Day War. You had an invasion on Yom Kippur in 1973. And of course, we've had intifadas, waves of terrorist attacks that have happened in the ensuing decades. But this was coordinated. This was brutal. And if you look at the death toll already, and there's going to be more, unfortunately, that's the equivalent not just of what happened here on September 11th. That'd be the equivalent in the United States of there being 50,000 dead in a terrorist attack, and that may end up going even more. So this is something that everyone around the world needs to unite and say that this shall not stand. So here in Florida, yes, we stand united. We're proud of what we've been able to do to develop an ironclad relationship between the state of Florida and the state of Israel. We did the first trade mission of my administration in 2019. It was the biggest trade mission in Florida history to Israel. We ended up developing great economic ties. We furthered academic ties, cultural ties, and it was a great experience for many people who went on that trip who had never been to Israel before. And we've made sure to build off that commitment during the time I've been governor. We know that we have an opportunity to do something forceful that will make a difference in terms of the substance, but I think symbolically be also important. And that is today our proposal that as we stand with Israel, we sanction Iran. So we are going to roll out for the next legislative session a proposal to increase Florida's sanction on Iran and to block Iranian business in our state. Our proposed legislation will, of course, reinforce Florida's commitment that we don't do business with state sponsors of terrorism such as Iran. It's going to expand the prohibition on state investment in Iranian businesses to include the financial, construction, manufacturing, textile, technology, mining, metals, shipping, shipbuilding, and port sectors. We're going to prohibit state and local governments from contracting with any company on this expanded sectors list. And we will not lift these sanctions until both the President and the U.S. Congress certify that Iran has stopped supporting international terrorism and seeking to acquire weapons of mass destruction. These will be, by far, the strongest Iran sanctions that any state has enacted of all 50 states throughout this country. And why not lead as Florida? We've been leading on these issues since the time I became governor. Since I've been governor, we've provided $18 million to support and for security at our state's Jewish day schools. We've prohibited state investment in companies who discriminate against Israel, such as with the BDS movement, and we were able to act very quickly against Airbnb when I became governor. We also have enacted legislation to combat anti-Semitism throughout our state, but also at our state universities. In light of the attacks this weekend, I've instructed the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Florida Highway Patrol to collaborate with Attorney General Ashley Moody to send a memo to law enforcement agencies across the state, reminding them of Florida's laws that protect our Jewish community. All law enforcement and prosecutors, it's reminding all law enforcement and prosecutors that any action that harbors terrorists are not lawful in the state of Florida, and that includes fundraising for Hamas or other terrorist groups. If you're doing that in Florida, you're going to be held accountable. We are remaining vigilant at the state level to ensure that anybody throughout the state, particularly of our Jewish community, is not targeted. And I would remind people, not only do we have a large Jewish community compared to many other states, we have the second largest Israeli-American community of any state in the United States. And so this is something that hits close to home. So we are, sad at what's happened. I'm angry at what happened. I think that we need justice, and I think that justice needs to be so severe that they wouldn't think of doing this ever again. And you can count on us to be a friend and to be an ally of the state of Israel and of the Jewish people. They know over there, and you all know who are with us today, it's not easy. You're always under siege in one way or another. But I think the spirit of saying that we lost our homeland before, we're never losing our homeland again, that's the spirit that's going to bring the people of Israel through a very trying time. And for us in Florida to be standing with them is very important. For us to be taking actions that'll actually have an impact is even more important, and I hope other states follow, and I hope the federal government follows suit and gets rid of this delusion that you can somehow play footsie with the Iranian mullahs. Put them in their place. Do not let them get any money flowing into their coffers, because you know that that's going to turn around and be used to fund terrorism against Israel and against our allies. I'm thankful to be joined today by a number of folks, our Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez, our Consul General, Mayor is here from the Israeli Consulate in Miami. And of course, Rabbi Lipsker is here. So I'm going to call each of them up to say a few words. So we'll start with the Lieutenant Governor.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. It's such an honor to be here with so many elected officials, our religious leaders, community leaders, and those of us that stand in solidarity with the people of Israel. And I think that we can all agree here that Israel has no greater friend than Governor Ron DeSantis. Because of his steadfast leadership, Florida has led the way in combating anti-Semitism. We have fought back against the BDS movement. As you heard the governor said, we have provided historic funding for security for Jewish day schools. In addition, we've enhanced our Holocaust curriculum with the Department of Education, and we've proudly strengthened our cultural and economic ties to Israel with several trade missions to Israel. And I'm proud to be part of an administration that unequivocally stands with the Jewish people here in Florida, in Israel, and across the globe. And our pledge to you is that we will always make sure that that special bond between Florida and the state of Israel grows stronger each and every day. We know that Israel is our strongest ally, our most valued friend in the Middle East. And what we've seen in the last few days has our hearts heavy. We've seen barbaric images unprecedented, inconceivable, appalling evil. The images and the videos are horrific. These terrorists are motivated by hatred. And their cowardly attacks, let me be very clear, it is for one reason and one reason alone: the total and complete rejection of Israel's right to exist, and we will never stand idly by while that occurs. And what is even more disturbing is that we're seeing countries in our own hemisphere, countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, their tyrannical and dictatorial regimes refuse to denounce Hamas, and they're showing their true colors as they always do. Not only do they criticize Israel, but they also have the audacity to justify these war crimes, these acts of terror against Israeli citizens and other citizens from across the country and the globe. There are no two sides on this issue. There simply can be no willingness to concede. There is a no two-state solution that we will ever accept. And if you are capitulating or providing a justification, you too are part of the problem. So today's announcement by Governor DeSantis reaffirms we will never do business or prop up terrorists or communists, and we're excited to work with the legislature to be able to accomplish that. Instead, we will stand up for Israel, for the courageous men and women of the Israeli Defense Forces who are bravely fighting as we speak, those that were with us in our own time of need. A friend of mine that I spent time with in my first trip to Israel, we were in Jerusalem, and he reminded me of the plight of the Jewish people, some of the most persecuted people on the planet. And his words of hope and comfort, they ring loudly today, just as they did during the time of Solomon. This too shall pass. Let it be a reminder of the fleeting nature of the human condition. Neither bad nor good times will last indefinitely. And as it says in Ecclesiastes, it reminds us that there's a time for war and a time for peace. But God has made everything beautiful in its time. So while in this season, let us all be encouraged to pray that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would accompany the Israeli troops into battle, that he will fight alongside them as he always has, and that he will protect them from all harm. We know that Israel will prevail. Israel will prevail. Good will overcome evil, and light will overcome darkness. Thank you all so much. May God bless you. We stand in support of Israel.
Before I really start with my words, Governor DeSantis, I want to thank you, and the Governor. Very few people in this room know how much the Governor himself is involved with protecting Israel, with protecting the Jewish community here. His team is on my speed dial. The deployment of FDLE has been extremely important and helpful, supporting Jewish institutions, the rallies that we see happening these days and will continue to happen these days, in the next few days. Thank you very much for everything that you do. On October 13th, the Governor ordered the flags to be lowered to half-mast, and the Capitol will be lit in blue and white to remember the victims of this atrocity. I had the dreadful mission notifying the family of Captain Abraham Henking just a few days ago that they lost their son. Not only that, my brother himself fought shoulder to shoulder with Captain Abraham Henking. These are real people, real brave, courageous people who put their lives and lose their lives to protect the state of Israel. I have over here a picture of a family, the Kedem family, who are related to our good friend, Mayor Josh Levi of Hollywood. 5 people, whole family, and the father, the grandfather, were murdered. Parents, 3 children, and the father were murdered together at their home. It's unimaginable. In the past few days, our beloved state of Israel, the place of so many around the world, Jews and non-Jews alike, certainly people over here, call home, is going through one of its darkest moments in our history. More than 900 people were murdered in the cruelest way one can or can't actually imagine. 2,700 wounded, more, 100 missing. People were set on fire, raped, mutilated, maimed, burned, shot, butchered, herded on pickup trucks and taken away. Men, women, children, babies, elderly, dancing youngsters, grandparents with their grandchildren, father and son, whole families. This is not a political conflict. This is not a territorial dispute. Forget about it. This is not even the opposite values or cultural differences. This is a war between light and darkness, between good and evil. And if you don't know on which side you are, you have a big problem. As days go by and the magnitude of this cruelty, dreadful nature of this attack is being revealed, it dawned on me that this is more than just a terror attack, albeit monstrous. This is a pogrom. This is a genocidal attack. These Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel with the aim to kill as many Jews as possible. That was their sole purpose. Just like medieval times, just like the Holocaust days, in an attempt to achieve their ultimate goal, the goal of their leaders, the evil regime of Iran, to destroy the state of Israel. Iran is behind all the evil in the Middle East and beyond. And Iran is everyone's problem. We've been saying that for decades, and it is clearer now more than ever. A long and gruesome war ahead. But we are rugged, we are strong, we are resilient. The war to eliminate Hamas and its allies has gone underway. We will win. We are not defenseless anymore. We are not stateless anymore. We have the state of Israel. And we also have you, the United States of America, as our best ally, and of course, these beautiful leaders and community of Florida. I want to thank again Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor, all your cabinet members, all the elected officials in Tallahassee, in the Senate, in the House. Some of them are present over here. Thank you very much for coming. Democrats and non-Democrats alike, Democrats and Republicans alike. They may differ on so many other issues, but when it comes to support of the state of Israel, there is no difference between them. They all support the state of Israel in an unequivocal way. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the support of the Jewish community and the commitment of the Jewish community for the state of Israel. I want to conclude with a blessing of the soldiers, fighters, and the people of Israel. Adonai, join me. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Amen.
With great gratitude to Almighty God and gratitude for saving our land, our people throughout history, and our personal gratitude for Almighty God allowing us to live in the best state of the United States of America. With the most concerned, consistent, persistent, moral, ethical leadership that is non-compromising. We thank the governor for all that he does consistently and for the security that he allows the Jewish community and the entire community to feel in this state that we have someone to talk to, we have someone to depend upon in the practicality of being safe to our country. The big question that we all have, and the governor and the lieutenant governor are examples of that, is what are you and I doing for Israel? Not just listening to someone else what he does, what the governor's done, what his cabinet has done, what the lieutenant governor has done, what our police have done. What do you and I do? We are not in Israel. We don't know how to shoot an M16. And if we came there, they probably would be a burden upon them instead of a help to them at this time. So what do we do? Of course, everybody knows the easiest thing to do, sometimes the hardest, but the easiest as well, is to give money. Doesn't take your time, doesn't take your effort, doesn't even take away from having the best lunch in the best restaurant. You can still do everything. Money for helmets, for bulletproof vests, for night goggles, the 300,000 people that have been called up, the reserves, the biggest reserve call-up since the Yom Kippur War. We find out that many of them don't have vests, life-saving apparatus. So that's the simple thing that anybody can do. You can go online, and there are a number of valid organizations that will deal with that. But how do I do something personal? In the middle of the night tonight, we don't sleep tonight too much during these nights. We have contact with people that we have relationships with in Israel, both in the military and otherwise. One of those people is my grandson, who's in the military in the South. As he called us in the middle of the night, I was surprised to hear him. It was 2:30 a.m. our time. It was 9:30 their time. And I said, Rafael, where are you? He says, I can't tell you, Zaidi, but I have my phone for 5 minutes, just enough to call you and to call my parents and to tell them I'm okay. I said, tell me, what's the mood? He says, I cannot even describe the mood to you. We are facing the most extraordinary, barbaric, inhuman savages that humanity has ever perceived. I read a book in 1967. I was a student. The book was never republished because it was too abhorring. The name of the book was If Israel Lost the War. That was the name of the book. And it's precisely what you said, Governor. What's happening today is that book. All of the mutilations, the devastation, the ripping apart, the joy at watching people suffer, that inhuman quality that cannot even be translated in human terms was in that book. So Rafael said, so what's the mood? He said, the mood has never been stronger. The morale is at the top of the line. There are no divisions. Everybody says victory. Nobody's thinking, God forbid, what's going to happen? I'm going to face an enemy. No, everybody's thinking, we will win. And the generals are saying the same thing. The next step is not compromise, not negotiable. Jewish life is not negotiable. It's not on the table of the United Nations to decide whether you live or die. They don't have that power. And therefore, the only answer is, one who comes to kill you, kill him first. The greatest leader of our generation and past, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he gave a response that was clear during the Yom Kippur War, during the Six-Day War, during the Lebanese times, during the Intifadas. He said, our response is power, strength, resilience. We're not letting savages define how we live. We live as Jews, which means the highest moral standards. We follow godly law. We add in our spiritual life, because in Jewish history, you can look at it, spirituality and our practical existence are interwoven. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it's the fact. So each one of us can add in our spiritual lives a little bit. Give more charity, be nice to somebody, call somebody that needs to be called to. Just give them courage. I asked our community, if you were in the front lines, you didn't have a gun in your hand, you don't know how to handle it, but you were under that canopy, under that helmet with the soldier. You were there. What would you do? The only thing that you could do to that soldier is say, we're going to win. Count on me. We have to come out of this room after hearing what the governor told us, the practicality of what's happening in the state of Florida. And we as strong, powerful, resilient Jews who've lived through the worst of history and lived through the best of history, we will say, no question, we will win. Didan Notzach. And we thank the governor and your staff for being here with us, giving us strength, encouragement. We have very much appreciate it. It means a lot to each one of the citizens of Florida, and we wish you the best of luck in everything.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.